Alright, so bear with me for a second. Got a new camera, but I'm still not up to speed on the lighting situation yet, so for right now we're doing shadow puppets. Anyway, with most of the balls that have come out for the last decade or two, it seems to be strongest ever, or sharpest ever, or most oil absorption, most unique, super symmetric core, extra drilling versatility for two-handers, so on and so forth. But has the needle really moved, or will it ever move going forward? And once again, there's a podcast. It won't have anything but blinding skin and general gingerness to look at, so nothing that you need to watch for. You can just listen. This is going to be a little ranty too, but this is one of those things that frustrates me because bowling is full of catch-22s, especially in the bowling ball space, and it's kind of like, okay, people are mad at this, but they're also mad at that. Any direction anyone goes, there's just anger from bowlers, and I have no clue what the answer is, but this is just yet another attempt to make you think. Now, our community is great, so I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but my mind goes 24/7, and this is just getting out some thoughts and venting a little at the same time, I guess. So first we need to talk about the basics of ball reaction and USB-C specifications because those are the two boxes to check in ball development. USB-C specs are kind of a joke. Most of them are really just putting up a fence around whatever already exists. The RG of a ball above 13 pounds has to be between 2.447 and 2.813, but the average of all samples tested has to be above 246 and below 280, so that's for all intents and purposes the range. You do see some stuff very low down around 246 or 247, but nothing seriously goes above 260 unless it's urethane. Black and purple hammers are up there, but about the highest reactive ball in the competitive weights is like Anger and High Road at 257 because good ball reaction doesn't really exist above that for reactive balls anyway. Above that, the ball just won't ever get into a decent roll or rev up much. It'll be way too cover dominant. Storm did that a few years ago with the fight and the street fight, but those really weren't that great. Differential has no minimum, but the max is 060. It used to be 080, I believe. They did reduce it, but studies have shown that there's no performance gain above 070 anyway. If you have a ball that's up around 058 like a Black Widow, if you drill it really strong, you can get it up to 065-ish or even a 070, but there's no real point or a real benefit, at least, to having a differential that high or a ball flaring that much, and it can actually be a problem depending on core strength and layout. Then they have all other kinds of rules on hardness, roughness, coefficient of friction, and all kinds of other stuff that most people won't really understand, so we'll skip it. But the point is that they aren't really restricting anything. Just like I said, they're kind of putting up a fence around the zone where good ball reaction already exists at. Oil absorption is another big thing that's been talked about. I mentioned that recently in the Equinox Solid videos because Storm has said that that's their highest absorbing ball. The USB-C spec is a ball can't absorb oil. I don't know what the actual amount is, but they have a specified amount. It can't absorb a specified amount of oil any faster than 2 minutes and 15 seconds. But at the time they set that, I think I remember reading that the fastest any ball on the market absorbed at that time was like 2 minutes and 35 seconds. So they didn't restrict or reduce or change anything. They just put the limit down the line a little ways to keep it from going any further. Now, a ball absorbs oil to keep the cover dry and tacky so that it's consistent from shot to shot. If oil stays on the cover, like a urethane ball, it gets slick and slimy, it doesn't hook right, it gets lazy, and that makes it weak at the pins so it can deflect or hit too soft. If the ball has a dry, tacky cover for every shot, it digs, it punches down lane, and it drives through the pins. That kind of a ball does require more maintenance than something like urethane or plastic, but it also performs better and gives you higher scores, so there's a trade-off, and bowlers will always whine about something. There are some scientific barriers here too. Even within the USB-C specs, which are pretty generous and very not limiting, ball reaction has to be efficient. They can make stuff that hooks even more than we have now, but a ball still has to get down the lane and shape right into the pins. So the blend of cover and surface has to dig through the oil just enough to get traction and be stable, and not hydroplane, but not too much, otherwise the ball's hooking too early, it's hard to hit the pocket with, or it burns up or whatever. Lighter oil balls kind of have to do the same. They need to be stable and allow the ball to still skid on less oil, but still have to be strong enough to move or do something on dry. Again, the window that good or effective or positive ball reaction exists in is relatively small, and that will remain the driving force as far as technology goes. So if you make something that pushes the limits or does wild things, but it doesn't help you knock the pins down, what's the point? Bowling technology has relatively nowhere to go to improve ball reaction and be effective. I think we all already know that. But you also have to recognize certain improvements, even if it's just nipping and tucking or rounding off the edges or whatever you want to call it. More stuff is consistently better than it used to be. 20, 25 years ago, I think there were still throwing stuff at the wall sometimes. You'd have some really great balls, but also some really bad ones. Things like Tech Death. Tech was a cover stock that was famous for being great for 30 games and then completely dying regardless of maintenance or whatever else. A lot of particle covers were known for that. You could have something amazing like the X Factor, yet still end up with dumpster fires like the Fear Factor or Apex Aggression. That's a mega yuck. But balls now, by and large, even if they're not as good as other balls or as popular, they're not bad. And that was kind of the point of my Finding Bad Balls stream a week or two ago. They've kind of figured out what's good and what isn't by now, and more medium or lower strength balls are usually just old technology that was good or that people like, so they use that as their kind of go-tos to plug holes or fill in between newer stuff where they might try something different. The other thing to consider here too is that people are used to how balls react now. If you go too far outside the box, the ball might react great or be useful, but it's really not going to be accepted. Do you remember the original phase that Storm got all excited about that people didn't really end up liking because it didn't act like what they thought or expected or wanted a quote-unquote pearl ball to act like? Then remember when the Zen came out and people went crazy over it even though it was basically the exact same ball? Pepperidge Farm remembers, and so do I. Same ball reaction with a different paint job. First one got rejected, second one single-handedly backed up the whole company's production for 6 solid months. Now, if you want to try to say that they weren't the same, I had both of them at the same time, and I even made a video about it showing the comparison. I brought the receipts. You also have to admit that the NRG cover stock that Storm came up with a little over a decade ago was a progression. They're still using it, and it still looks good. HK22 has really boosted B7 stuff, and while Motive hasn't really had any big major standouts aside from the Venom Shock and Jackal Ghost, I think those two have significantly influenced and guided their other releases. They've made steady progress throughout their whole lineup over the last several years, and now they have something like Duramax that helps balls retain their surfaces longer. Their covers are exceptionally durable and long-lasting too, and they're quietly making some of the best stuff on the market. It all looks sharp, but it's not really flashy, and mostly blue-collar kind of reactions, but they tend to keep it simple and effective, and that's the reason that they've been able to compete with the bigger brands. Storm had a little bit of a fall-off while they were getting adjusted to the softness nonsense, but they figured something out and have released a lot of great stuff this year. So while you can say, okay, cool, but I haven't seen anything really that new or revolutionary, fair enough, but you're not going to. Progression now is going to come little by little in the form of tightening things up rather than seeing any big jumps or steps forward in any other directions, because realistically, where are we going to go to? Everybody already says things like, damn, an even stronger ball? I don't have enough oil for half the stuff they put out now as it is. Yeah, HK22 looks sexy, but I don't need all that hook and all that back end at the same time on everything that they make. Well, I really like Motive stuff, but it's also expensive. So we have stuff that hooks, we have stuff that doesn't hook. We have new covers that mimic urethane without being urethane. We have stuff that turns sideways and stuff that's really smooth. Where exactly is the progression or advancement supposed to come from in a direction that will improve ball reaction or make it more efficient? Well, maybe they should make balls that last longer than 50 games. Everything breaks in, and especially hard-heavy objects thrown repeatedly at other hard-heavy objects and that are handled and returned by machinery specifically built to withstand repeated impacts from hard-heavy objects. The things that they need to do to make reactive balls do what they do naturally make them wear down faster than something like urethane or plastic. Urethane and plastic will go and go and go until they're so beat up you can't use them anymore. So if you complain about the durability of reactive balls, but still buy reactive balls, I really don't have a whole lot of sympathy for you, because you buy the reactive balls because they're more dynamic and easier to score with. It's not like durable options don't exist and you're forced into constantly buying reactive balls. Plenty of them exist, you just don't want to use them because your scores will go down. Lots of things are like that. So how about they make phones with screens that don't break? Well, they could, but they'd be a lot heavier and bulkier and people wouldn't like that. There are tons of things out there that perform better, but that as a result require more care, more maintenance, so on and so forth. There's really nothing more that can be done with bowling balls or lane conditions to make it any easier than it already is. Hook and hit in a box on conditions that funnel the ball to the pocket, so a lot of the comments and complaints are kind of ridiculous. So let's add the human element into it. People say they like new and different, but they always fall for comfort and nostalgia. Whenever ball companies put out something new or fresh, it's hit and miss, but when a new Black Widow comes out, or a phase, or if Motive would stop playing around and re-release the Sigma Tour, the Nebula has quelled my rage for the time being, but people will line up around the block for those. Even beyond that, stuff that's good and is still in production gets walked around pretty often. I said this before, but I don't know how many times I'd have people come into the shop and say, hey, I think my IQ Tour finally wore out. What's out now that I can replace it with? I'd say, well, you're in luck. They still make those. So I wouldn't mess around with anything else. I'd just get another one of those. Then they without fail say, well, yeah, but I've already had one. It'd be kind of boring to just get the same ball again. So what's something else that's new, but that acts like it? So if you truly want good ball reaction, then why don't you buy what's good, regardless of how many of those you drilled in the past? Or if you're concerned about technology progression, then buy what's new. 900 Global's Cove is an example of something that's fresh from top to bottom. I don't think it's anything revolutionary, but it's a rarer shape, especially for SPI. Haven't seen anything like the Cove for a long time. Plus, it's a unique look and name, but nobody gives a shit because it doesn't say Phase or, High Road on it. Now, on the other hand, Storm announces the Phase 2 Pearl and everybody's buzzing about it, even though the P2 was the only good phase that the majority of people liked. Now, I liked all of them except the P4 and the AI. I didn't have an AI, but it sucks anyway. But the general consensus was that the original sucked, the P3 was average, P4 wasn't great, nobody cared about the P5, mostly negative on the AI, but we're still getting excited about a phase just because the 2 was good and phase is a cool name. Like, come on, people, we can't just mindlessly bitch about stuff and not stop and engage the gray matter every once in a while. So to recap, ball technology really has nowhere significant to go. Nothing much has really changed in the last 10 to 15 years, and I don't expect much to change in the next 10 to 15. Marketing will continue to be marketing. There will be nips and tucks and adjustments here and there, but they'll be mostly market adjustments following consumer trends, what they want to buy, or like Roto started doing with making stuff that performs better on older lane surfaces since synthetics have hit the point that a lot of the lanes out there are 25 plus years old and the heads are really super dirty, and that factors into ball reaction fairly significantly. You're just not going to see what you want to see in terms of tech advancement, or at least what you think you want to see. People ultimately want fresh spins on familiar things with a little bit of comfort. So Storm will keep making the Phase 2, IQ Tour and High Road, Motive will keep making the Shock and the Ghost, Hammer will keep making Black Widows, and people will continue ignoring new and different in favor of tried and true as long as it's just mixed up a little. However, even though people stroke out over all this and marketing and no progression and whatever else, there's nothing wrong with just wanting new or pretty stuff. The 9-month league season where you bowl at the same place on the same shot against the same people gets pretty long with not a lot to break it up or mix it up, and buying something new scratches that itch a lot of the time. People freak out for some reason over the company's marketing too. Well, they're just trying to lie to us and work angles to get our money. Balls are coming out too fast, or they design them to die faster so we have to buy more, blah, blah. No, they're not trying to lie to you. It's just called marketing. Everyone does it. Yes, they are trying to get your money. It turns out when you're trying to run a business that money is kind of important. They're coming out as fast as they are because the faster they put them out, the more they sell. And no, they don't design them to die faster. That's just the cost of higher performance. How many pairs of shoes do you own, for example? Do you really need that many? Tool guys, do you really need all the tools that you have, or do you just like buying cool toys every now and then? Buying a ball doesn't always have to be a hard and fast need to plug a hole in your arsenal. They can be a simple, oh damn, that ball looks cool, I want that, here's my credit card, and then you go throw it and have fun. Also, it's something called variety. It always used to fry me out when people would walk into the shop, stare at a wall that has like 40 different balls on it and go, well, I don't see anything new, I guess I'll try again later. Like, bro, you were just in here 2 weeks ago, give it a minute. Or it was, man, I really want that ball, but I hate the colors they went with. We're quick to bitch about why would they put this ball out, it overlaps with this ball and that ball, but we'll turn right around at the same time and say, all these balls they have out and nothing interests me. Again, it's called variety. They're giving you several different options inside of a certain range so you have a choice instead of having to buy one specific ball to fit what you're after. Some people like really wild colors that helps them see what the ball is doing, but for other people that's really distracting. People are endless victims of their own ignorance and hypocrisy, and too many of them can't see past the end of their own nose. Now, at the end of the day, you don't have to buy the ball. You don't have to watch the video. It's like posts on Facebook that people don't seem to understand that they can just keep scrolling. If you see something stupid or that you don't like, you can unfriend, unfollow, hit the X on the page of the group you don't want to see pop up again, or just close the app and go do something productive. You don't have to leave an angry face and put up some mean comment that's either going to get you exposed or laughed at, or that's just going to be meaninglessly lost to the void. So this is the state of bowling. And after all the recent USBC rules and everything surrounding urethane and all that wild nonsense, this is where we're at. Reactive balls will never go anywhere. They'll keep coming out just as fast as they are now, and that they're really not going to change much. Where we're at now is just making fresher stuff to keep people interested, or to replace old used up equipment, or to give people variety, or even just give them fun stuff to throw. If you have a problem with that, don't participate in it. You can still throw your old burgundy hammer from 1980 whatever and brag that you don't need all these new fancy expensive balls because you can still average 187 with your 50-year-old ball. Cool story, bro. You do you. And if that's what you do and that's what makes you happy and keeps you bowling, that's really all that matters. You can plead your case to everyone else, but things are what they are, and you always have the choice what you're going to do about it. Thanks for watching, and may the strikes be with you.